Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we're going to be talking about all of the books that I read in the month of April. Okay, so you guys, in the month of April, I literally read 14 books, excluding one that I actually DNF'd. I mean, I am so freaking proud of myself. This is by far the highest quantity of books that I've read ever in my reading journey. It is the highest, okay? And I am so proud of myself. Mostly though, I did read a lot of fantasy, a little bit of romance, some dark fantasy, and I'm excited. I regret nothing. I had such a blast this month and I had a lot of 5-star reads, some 4-star. I did have a 2-star, and you guys are going to be so shocked by the book that I gave a 2-star to. Like, we will talk about it. Before we get into the video, if you haven't already, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. That way you never miss another one of my videos. Okay, so for the month of April, I read, like I said, 14 books with a total of 6,317 freaking pages. So not only did I read 14 books, I'm gonna keep saying that throughout this video because I'm so freaking proud of myself, okay? Anyways, not only did I read 14 books, but a lot of them were chunky books. And again, I am so proud of myself. So let's get started. Here we go. Let's just get the first book out of the way, which is the one that I DNF'd, and that is Sisters of Fortune by Anna Lee Harper. Now, this is a historical fiction, and it literally follows 3 sisters who are well off, very wealthy, who happen to set sail in the Titanic. Now, I think this is my fault to the fact that I DNF'd it. I read over 265 pages in this book, and I just could not do it anymore. And again, that's my fault because I didn't really look into the synopsis as much. I thought because this took place in the Titanic that it was going to give me the Titanic accident, you know, the Titanic tragedy. No, we're just literally following 3 very wealthy sisters who are dealing with different things in their lives, and that's it, who happen to travel abroad in the Titanic. And it's so boring, you guys. It's so boring. This book made me realize that I don't know if I like a lot of historical fiction other than the books that I read from Kristen Hanna, because she actually puts a plot in there. She actually puts a problem in there, and this was just more of a character study. And honestly, I was not invested in the characters. I did not care if some of them ended up with their love interest. I didn't care. It was so daunting to keep reading it. And I don't like DNFing books, but I just couldn't anymore. I felt like I was just wasting my time. So therefore, I didn't give it a rating. If I would have finished the book, it would have been no more than a 2-star read for me. Then I finally read the last book in the Dreamland Billionaire series, The Final Offer by Lauren Asher, and this one follows Callahan and Alana. I gave this book a 4.5 just because for some reason, even though I really loved the couple and I loved the characters and I loved their romance, I wasn't really invested in them as much. For some reason, I just wasn't. I did appreciate though that we get to see little cameos here and there of the other couples in the other books, which I loved. I love that. I love when authors do that. And one of my favorite characters in this book is Alana's little girl, a little 5 or 3-year-old girl by the name of Maddie. I think her name is Maddie, or maybe that's in a different book. Yeah, I forgot what her name was, but that little girl just tugged at my heart. Such a cute, sweet little girl. And if you didn't know what the 3rd book in the series is about, this is following one of the brothers, which is Callahan. All these books are set in a way where their grandfather passes away and gives them individual tasks in his will in order for them to get their inheritance. And for Cal's, he literally has to go back to their summer house and convince Alana, who happens to live there, that they have to sell the house. Alana is a very important person to Callahan because they grew up together. They met at the summer house, and when they were younger they were in love, so there's that. I really like the forced proximity in this book. I love that trope so much. I love when 2 characters are kind of forced to live with each other. I really liked how understanding Alana is to some of the problems and some of the things that Callahan goes through in this book, because he is kind of an alcoholic in a way. So I really like how compassionate how she was towards him. And I also loved Callahan. Before I've read this book, I really liked his character because he's the fun, outgoing, laid-back one, but it is a lot deeper than you think when it comes to his background because of all the things that he goes through in his life that have caused him to have a drinking problem. So I really did enjoy it. I just didn't have that 5-star feeling that I normally get with her books. I think the very first book in the series is my favorite one out of all of them, but I'm happy to say that this was also a great book. I really enjoyed it, and I can also now move on to her next book in a new series that I think also revolves around this universe, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm finally done with the Dreamland Billionaire series, and I'm happy I'm done so I can move on to her other books. Then I randomly picked up this book that I just saw available on my Libby app. I don't have a physical copy of it. I just decided to listen to it on audio, and that is That's Not My Name by Megan Lally. Now this one is a mystery thriller, and honestly, it was just okay. I did give it kind of a high score, like high rating. I gave it a 3.5 because it was really action-packed. It kept you on your toes. But am I gonna read this again? No, but I also didn't hate it. So that's why I'm kind of in between. So I honestly don't want to give you much about this book. Off the bat, from the beginning of the book, it starts really action-packed. This girl wakes up in the middle of the woods having no recollection of where she's going or what has happened to her. She is bruised up, she's bloodied, and she has no memory of what happened to her. And then the story goes from there. I'm just gonna leave it at that. This is kind of a book where I don't think it's a mystery. It is a little thrilling, but it's not a mystery because you kind of know who the person responsible is in this book. So you're just kind of following different characters and their POVs as they struggle and they deal with certain circumstances. So that is completely vague, but that's all I'm gonna say. I mean, I do recommend this book because if you want something quick, thrilling, high-paced, action-packed, it grips you from page one, then I would recommend this book to you. And then I read Kill for Me, Kill for You by Steve Kavanaugh. Now, I honestly don't really remember a lot about this book, which is why I gave it a 3. Again, this is not one of those books that is thrilling because you know exactly who the person is, like who the bad person is. You know, like what they're doing. This story is about Amanda and Ruth. They meet after very strange, unique circumstances. They meet, they form this bond, and because of the things that they've dealt with in life, as they're talking to each other at a bar and they're telling each other their trauma stories, they somehow come up with a pact to kill off somebody in their lives because of what they did to them. So that's basically what the story is. Again, it's not really thrilling. There's not really a mystery. It does keep you glued and interested. I will give it that. It is action-packed and you're very invested. But at the end, the reveal was kind of lame to me. Like, I didn't like how the book ended. I didn't like certain things and certain events that occurred at the end. And I just thought it was okay. I also think that some of the things that these women go through as far as their trauma and what this book is based off of is very tragic. One in particular, like what she went through was just so sad. And again, 3 stars. If you want to read it, go ahead, but you're not missing much if you don't. Then I finally read Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn. I'm not going to tell you what these books are about. These are books 6 and 7 of the Throne of Glass series, which means I only have 1 book left to finish and wrap up with the entire series, which I'm so sad because I'm so invested in this world and these characters. They just mean so much to me. Tower of Dawn, I gave a 4.5. Empire of Storms, I gave a 5-star. Now, the reason why I gave this one a 4.5, and it's basically the only book I think in the series that was not a 5-star for me, is because it is solely based around a character that I learned to dislike throughout the series, and I just didn't really care about his book. I don't understand why he got a book, so I mean, that's pretty much it. The book is interesting, but it's literally his book and that's it, and other things, but mostly it's his book, which was annoying to me. Still a high score. I enjoyed it. 4.5. And then Empire of Storms ends in such a huge cliffhanger that, oh my gosh, I have no idea how I didn't pick up the next book, but I kind of wanted to give myself a break from completely devouring the next book in the series, because then I'll be done. I'll be completely finished with these characters in this world, and I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. So I really hope that this series ends in a good note. Like, it doesn't do some of the things that I'm anticipating that's going to do to one of the characters in this book that I care so much about. So we'll just have to see. I hope it doesn't break me. I hope it breaks me, but in a good way with a good ending. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Okay, and then just to give myself a little bit of a break, to read something fluffy and fun, I randomly picked up Last Call at the Local by Sarah Grunda Rees. Now, this was actually an A+ April release, and I'm so glad I did because it was so fun and so fast paced. This story follows Rain and Jack. Rain is a struggling musician. She meets Jack, who happens to be the owner of this pub that she goes into one night after something happens to her. They hit it off right away. From there, he offers her a job at his local pub. The story goes from there. It's their romance. I really enjoyed this a lot. I'm pretty sure this is set in Ireland, which I don't really read a lot of rom-coms that are set in Ireland. I really liked the setting of this. I liked the local pub feel. I like the small knit community around it. I like the people, the characters, the town, how each one cares about each other. And I really liked the fact that Rain has ADHD and Jack has OCD. So you get both characters' points of views in this book, and it's really like eye-opening to see. I don't have any of that, and I don't know if it's a correct representation, but I feel like it was done very well, if I can even say that. Just the fact that you get into Jack's head and all of the OCD emotions and thoughts that go in his head over the things that he obsesses about is just eye-opening to me. And the fact that people go through this kind of stuff daily is just so heartbreaking, because it's not like it's a deadly disease or anything, and I wouldn't see it as a disease. Like, I don't know if I'm terming it right, but it's just an eye-opener, like, to actually know that there are people out there that struggle like that in their life is just so heartbreaking, because it just makes life so much more difficult, you know, when you go through that type of roller coaster of thoughts and compulsions that you just can't control, but that's who you are as a person. So I really liked that. The representation in here I really liked. I also liked how they met, like Rain met him halfway when she finally understood him and realized how much OCD he has, and vice versa, how they kind of met each other halfway with their personalities. Like, I thought that was great. I loved the chemistry that they had, and I loved just the small town feel that this book gives you. It's cozy, it's warm, but also has some deep emotions in there, some deep topics that are very well appreciated. I gave this one a 4. I enjoyed it so much. Then I read the book of the year for me, okay? The year is not over, and this is my favorite book of all time. I'm gonna say it, I'm putting a stamp on it. This book has changed my life so much. I actually went into a little tiny book slump because of this, because nothing topped this book for me. It was everything to me, and I love it so much, and that is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Now, I paired this with the audio, and if you don't, you are doing yourself a disservice, because this book, the person that narrates the main male character of this book, Kai, his voice is like gold. It's so dreamy. It's so beautiful. It's so full of emotions. It's just, oh, you will fall in love with this person just because of his voice, okay? I thought both characters, narrators for the audiobook were phenomenal, because they are a teen, you know, they are young adult. You don't get an older person narrating it, which is one of the things that irks me about narration sometimes. Everything was done so beautifully. There is no spice in this book, and you don't need it, because the angst, the emotions, the banter, the tension, the sexual tension that these two characters have is fucking unreal. I'm sorry I had to say that word, but that's exactly how I feel. I have literally tabbed this book. Every other freaking word in this book is so beautifully written, and it's not like it's very poetic. Actually, it is. I take it back. It's poetic. It's not only poetic, you feel it to your core. Like, this book gives you that freaking feeling where you're just pulled. Your soul is like pulling out of your body type of thing. I don't even know if I'm making any sense. It is so good. And if you didn't know what this book is about, this book is a fantasy romance, a young adult fantasy romance. It follows Peyton and Kai. And in this world, a plague happened many years ago. What this plague does to people is you either survive it with no powers, or you either survive it and you get powerful abilities. Because the king is such a prick, if you don't have powers, you are literally exiled and on death row. He will kill you, because in this world, if you don't have powers, you're only weakening those who do have powers. And there's all different kinds of ranks. There's elites, there's mundanes. Mundanes, defensive, offensive, elites, wielders, there's all kinds of powers. And you're basically put in different categories depending on how strong your power is. Obviously, if you have like weak powers, such as, I'm looking at the other book because it gives me a little table. A mundane would be somebody like a voice protection, lie detection, power, enhanced sense defenses. You know, a defensive would be a person that can teleport anywhere. An offensive would be a person that can elemental manipulation, like flame manipulation. And then we have the very rare powers, which is the fatals, that the king decides to only keep one. So if there's more than one fatal in this world, he gets rid of one because he doesn't want any competition with his sons or anything like that. You get one controller, which is a person that manipulates other, a mind reader, a person that reads your mind. And then there's the wielder, which is his son, which is the royal prince, who can basically wield any type of person's power if he's in close proximity to them, which is the most powerful person you can be. And he's also an enforcer, which means he is the one that puts these people on death sentence. He is the one that does the dirty work as far as killing off people for his father. I don't know why I went into this whole history of like what each power or what each name of the rank means, but I just think that's so fascinating that there's so many different types of ranks and classes. But anyways, so in this world, if you don't have powers, you're literally, you know, dead. Like, they will ship you off to die, even if you're kids, men, women, kids, whatever. The king doesn't care. And so Peyton, hence, is powerless because she does not have any powers, and she's been able to get away with it because she's been able to say that she has psychic abilities. Because of the way that she grew up and some of the things that happened in her life when she was a child, she has learned to fend for herself for a very long time and kind of live in the slums to survive. And because of this, she is very observant. She can pick up on people based on what they're wearing, their body language, how they're acting, and so that kind of lets her get away with the fact that she is a psychic, and that is her powers, that is her abilities. Because this is based off of a Hunger Game, there are trials that are basically set every 5 years or so, where the king, the royal palace, has the public pick at random all these people with these different abilities to go in, fend for their lives, and survive in these trials that take several weeks to complete. The public actually signed up Peyton for it, who doesn't have any powers, and in this he also signs his enforcer, which is the royal prince Kai. It's their romance, and I have to tell you, this book just does things to me. I want to reread it so badly, and it's so beautiful. This is an enemies to lovers, but also a little bit of forbidden, because she has no powers and he's an enforcer, and he is enforced to kill those that don't have powers, and she's put in these trials to survive, and amongst all these other people that are very powerful. You know, it's just so good. It's so good. And the way this ended, my god, can the next book come out any sooner, please? Can it? This is obviously a 5-star. My favorite book of the entire year. I don't have to read anything else because this fulfilled me so much. I love this so much. Okay, literally after reading that, nothing else stuck. I tried to pick up Daisy Hates, which is the second book in the Magnolia Park series, and I just put it down, like soft DNF it, because I was just not in the mood, and I'm trying to listen to it on audio, but these people with their beautiful accents read it so friggin' fast that I can't be doing laundry or anything else without having the physical book in front of me so I can understand what the heck they're reading. Honestly, nothing was hitting. After this, I kind of felt into a little tiny slump. I tried to pick up several books, wasn't happening because, again, this book, Powerless, man, like, did so much to me. So then I picked up the first book in the Olympian Gods series, I think it's called, and that is Neon Gods by Katie Roberts. This is a modern dark romance retelling of Hades and Persephone. I gave this book a 5-star. This was so good. Before I read this book, I did not care about Hades and Persephone. The way that Katie Roberts wrote these characters and the steamy scenes, it was just so interesting to me. I loved it. This book was so good. I enjoyed every little bit of this book. Gave it a 5-star. And again, this is a retelling of Hades and Persephone, and it's their romance. It's set in a modern time. Just the way that Hades cares about Persephone, the way that he shows he cares by doing these little gestures. He is known to be this mean, horrible person when really he deeply is not, and it shows how he cares about his town and his city, and he takes care of his people. People that live there are actually well taken care of and cared for. It's like just so good. The character development to me in this, especially with Hades, was just phenomenal. It was such a great experience. I was not expecting to love this book so much, and the freaking steamy scenes in this book are just so amazing. Like, he does everything. He goes out of his way to just pleasure her. and it's just so good, you guys. This book starts off action-packed. They're at a party and she finds out that she is going to be married off to Zeus. And Zeus, I like that in this story, Zeus is actually not that great of a guy. He is actually very cruel, and he has a history of every time somebody marries him, they are murdered somehow, and everybody suspects that he does it. So in order to be more powerful and have a stronger alliance, her mother decides to try to marry her off to Zeus. And so she wasn't having that. She decides to escape and basically go into the underworld where Hades is. The first scene on how they encounter each other and how he holds out his hand to her to save her from these guards is just so good. So freaking good. And from there, they kind of go into this bargain, sort of say, that kind of benefits the both of them. And the story goes from there. The romance is really good. I enjoyed it. I had such a great time reading this. And then there is another book that I read before, Neon Gods, that I don't have a physical copy. It's another book that I just wanted to like lose myself in, and that is Lessons in Sin by Pam Godwin. And this is basically a smutty, dark romance about the head priest of a Catholic school and a student. It's their romance. It's forbidden. It's an age gap. And it's very smutty and very steamy. I enjoyed it. I gave it a 3.5. It was good. It was just not that, you know, it wasn't anything to be crazy over, but it was a nice, fun time, very steamy. Some of the scenes were like, oh my gosh, but I enjoyed it. I just didn't enjoy listening to the narration of this. Like the guy in this, I think the main male character is supposed to be in his 30s and the main female character is supposed to be 18, but the person that narrated the main male character in this book was literally sounded like he was 50, which again, I don't mind if the character is portrayed to be that way, but because he wasn't, it kind of threw me off when he was trying to speak all these dirty things, you know, about his student, and so it was kind of cringy, but I did enjoy it. It was fast paced. I think I finished it in a day or two. It was something that I needed to just, you know, lose my mind in, and it did just that. And then I read the most disappointing book of the entire month and possibly the year, and it's so disappointing because I really wanted to like this book. I had high hopes for it. This is one of my favorite authors. I have given her books 4 to 5 stars every single time I've read them. I love her romances because they combine not only romance but deep topics and kind of like contemporary fiction as well. But I didn't like it, you guys, and I'm sorry, please don't attack me. And that is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I gave this book a 2-star, and it's so disappointing. But I didn't like it. I really like Abby Jimenez as a writer. I like the fact that she writes books that are really realistic. The relationship is always flawed. The characters are always going through some kind of struggle, some kind of tragedy. It's very triggering at times based on what the trauma is. Most of her books are not only romance, it's not a rom-com, it's a deeper romance with deeper emotions and trauma. Like each character goes through their own things before they finally get together, which is what I love. I did not like this one at all. At all. So this one is following Emma and Justin, and they meet off of a Reddit thread article that Justin writes one day. And in this article, he writes about the fact that it's kind of like that movie Good Luck Chuck, where he is cursed because every time he dates a girl and they break up, she ends up finding the love of her life and getting married. And so in this article, he's joking about that. And because Emma happens to see it, she is going through the same thing in her life. And so they kind of bond in this way and click right off the bat, having these conversations back and forth until they realize that maybe they should fake date each other to kind of cancel each other's curses out, and maybe they will find their true loves afterwards. So it's their romance, the story goes from there. But I just have to say, I did not like Emma. I did not like her at all. I thought she was insufferable. And I know that part of her personality is because of the trauma of her childhood trauma with her mother that she had, but I just wasn't here for it. Justin was just such a sweet guy who has been put in this situation based off of something that happened to him, and he has no choice but to take custody of his siblings. And I just hated Emma for the way that she treated him. This entire book is her trying to figure out her issues, which is fine, but the way that she treats Justin and the way that she kept denying the feelings that she had for him because he had kids, his siblings, that he had to adopt due to certain situations, was insufferable. This book to me felt like it was draining my soul. It was so hard to read. I did not root for them. I thought Justin deserved better. I hated Emma for what she does to him, how badly she treats him in this book, and I just didn't see that as cute. I also didn't like, you know, just everything that happens in this book was just so infuriating. I just couldn't sympathize, even though this book, forget how it looks, this is such a deeper type of romance. It is so trauma triggering and just, I don't know, guys. I'm so sorry. I just didn't get it. I am not like the rest of the world that really enjoyed this book for what it is. I actually hated it for what it was, and not because of the trauma and how Emma was because of it, but because of the way that she treated the one person that was willing to put everything aside for her and do all these things for her to show her that this can work out and we can be together. And she is just so insufferable to read about, and just didn't like it. 2-star. I'm probably the only person in the world that thought that, but 2-star, really hated it. And I also think this is probably a bad timing for me to read this book, because I had literally just read Powerless. I had literally just read Neon Gods, and both of those books, even though they're totally different, both of those books show how each character does things to each other, how they love each other, how it's not all about them, and just how selfless they are, and it's just not one-sided, you know? So did not enjoy it. Do what you want. I'm sure you're gonna read it. I'm sure you loved it, but I'm so sorry I didn't, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. Then I read the second book in the Olympian God series, which is Electric Idol by Katie Robert. This one follows Eros and Psyche, and it's their romance. Obviously, it's a modern mythology retelling about their romance, and I just thought this one was very unique because of the characters themselves. Psyche is this very curvy, beautiful woman, but at the same time, she's not taken very serious because she's not the prettiest out of the bunch. She's not the most popular out of the bunch, but she has the heart of gold, and she is so sweet. And then we have Eros, who kind of does his mother's dirty deeds. He assassinates people, and he does Aphrodite's like dirty work, you know, so that she doesn't have to get her hands dirty. He's described as this very handsome, good-looking type of superficial man, but there's so much more deeper emotions in there, and I really enjoyed it. I gave this one a 4-star. I enjoyed it, but I just didn't enjoy it as much as Hades and Persephone's book, so that's why I gave this one a 4. It's still a really good book. The steamy scenes are amazing. How sweet he is to her is just so good, and I had a great time reading it. And then I went on to TikTok's rabbit hole. Yep. Okay, I normally don't go on there a lot, but when I finished reading Powerless, I wanted something that would hook me, even if the series is literally 20 plus books, okay? And so I decided to embark on my Zodiac Academy journey by Caroline Pickman and Suzanne Valenti. Now, this is book 1 and 2. I am happy to say I finished both of these chunky books in this month. And say what you want to say, okay? You either really love these books or you really hate them. I love them. I'm just gonna keep it short and simple. I don't want to give too much, but these books are literally a bully romance set in a magical school. And that's pretty much it. It's kind of like Harry Potter, but written so badly. But it's so addicting and so drama filled that you just can't peel your eyes off of the pages. And that's all I'm gonna say about this series. This is what I'm gonna say. Go into these books knowing that the writing is so cringy. Okay, it is. It's the worst writing that I've ever read in my life. Am I here for the writing? No. Am I here to read a work of literature? No. I'm here for the ride. I'm here for the characters, which are interesting. I'm here for the romances in here, which are very good. I'm here for the found family. I'm here for the magical school, the elemental magic, the setting in a magical academy, all the different kinds of monsters. There's werewolves, there's vampires, there's Pegasus. Like, it's just so good. Every book gets so much more interesting, and I heard that you will be emotionally damaged after you read this series. So the way that I decided to read this series, by the way, I gave both of these a 4-star, not a 5-star, but a 4-star because I did enjoy my time and I am entertained. It's a 9-book series, just Zodiac Academy. But then there's spin-off series that interconnect and follow different sets of characters in this academy. So I've decided to read it that way, and at the end of it, I'll probably be reading a 20-book series because I just want the full-blown experience of everything this world has to give me. So I'm working on reading book 3. After book 3, I jump into the Ruthless Boys series, which is a 5-book series about some of the boys in this world that take place 5 years before Zodiac Academy. And then after that, I jump into book 4, which I heard book 4 is the book that will emotionally damage you. So I can't wait, okay? I'm having such a great time, and I don't care what anybody says. Yes, it's garbage writing, but I am having such a blast, and even though these books are so thick, they go by so fast, and it's so interesting. And you also get multiple points of views of specific characters, and the more you get of the men in this book, the more of their points of views you get, the better it gets, and you only get every so often that you get to be in their heads. It's great, you guys. It's so good. 4 stars, okay? 4 stars for both of them. And then I ended the month with reading Powerful by Lauren Roberts. Now, this is a tiny novella about a character in Powerless, book 1, and it follows her and her love interest. And this was so sad. I got this yesterday because it was released April 30th, and I read it in one sitting. And it's so heartbreaking because if you read Powerless, you know what happens to this character in that book. And this is just her story, and oh, I'm just getting teary-eyed like thinking about it because it's so sad, you guys, but I need more. I need more of this world. I need more of these characters. I think it's only going to be a 4-book series or a 5-book series. I wish it was more because I just love what Lauren Roberts has done with this world and these characters and this magic system. It's just so good. Her writing is phenomenal, and I think she's a younger author. Like, I think she's in her 20s, and the fact that this woman can write like this, my God, this is a little tiny novella, and look at how much of the tabs I've tabbed in here. Like, look at that. So heartbreaking. If you want your heart ripped out of you again and go through a second time of emotional damage, read this. I gave this a 5-star, and it was just so good, but so freaking sad. Okay, you guys, so that is it. Those are all the 14 books I read this month. I'm so happy. I can't wait to share with you what I'll be reading in May. It's gonna be a lot of fantasies, and my stack, my TBR stack, is probably not gonna be that big because right now I'm in a fantasy high and I refuse to get down from it. So that's it. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and I will catch you on my next one. Bye!